Good morning, guys. What we are going to be looking at in this video is interest and aptitudes. As we've talked about prior to this in class, decision making, personality style, your skills, and just who you are as an individual, really considering those things is going to help lead you into a career that's going to be the best fit for you. What this video is going to focus on is your interest and aptitudes, as it says. Be sure that as you're going through this that you get this information and the definitions of these in your notes. When you come to class tomorrow or the next time that we do have class, we're going to be doing an activity where you're going to be looking up some video clips that go along with these different aptitudes. So it's important that you at least have a basic framework for what each one actually is. Now here are the learning targets. These also can be found on our websites as well, but by the end of this you should be able to explain what an aptitude is, and you should understand the difference between a skill and an aptitude, as well as you should be able to provide examples of aptitudes in real world situations, and that we're really going to test the next time that we have class with an activity. Now, when we start off looking at interest and aptitudes, interest is obviously things that you just simply enjoy doing. Some people always say, figure out what you really like to do in life and then try and make that your career. That's great. However, a lot of times it really doesn't work out. I may really like to play baseball, but I just might not be good enough to play baseball professionally. But it is important to at least have somewhat of an interest in the career that you select. Your definition for interest, and again, be sure to get this in your notes, is just a positive feeling that you have about something. Your likes and your dislikes. And these things change over time, but again, should be considered when you're actually selecting a career. An aptitude, on the other hand, and here you have little Johnny, he does not have, clearly looking at this image here, an aptitude for civil engineering, hopefully. But what we see here as an aptitude is something that you are born with. It's your innate ability. It's the ease at which a person can learn to do something, and it's your potential. You see this a lot of times when individuals for the very first time pick up a bat or a golf club or even walk into a math class and it just seems to click for them. A lot of times people say that that's an aptitude. Sometimes we reference that as sometimes a God-given ability to be able to do something. They were just born that way. That, a lot of times, what they're describing when they say those things are aptitudes. Now, there's so many different kinds. We've decided to kind of zero in and zoom in on 8 different ones in particular, but understand that there are more than just 8 out there. These are just the 8 that we've selected. Also, that all of us possess these aptitudes in varying levels and varying amounts. Here are your first 3 aptitudes. The first one's numerical. I think that one's a pretty easy one to identify and understand. These are the individuals that are in accelerated math classes. They're freshmen and they're in AP level math classes already, or they're going to umpty-ump math classes. They just seem to math just seems to be a great fit for them, and again, very quickly they're able to absorb that. Verbal, these are the individuals, a lot of times they're going to be the lawyers. They're going to be the individuals that are in speech and in debate. They understand the meaning of words and how to use those words effectively. They may be screenplay writers or they may be editors, and we'll kind of come back because jobs do fit in a lot of times into multiple categories here. Also here, form perception. Form perception is the ability to perceive details in objects. These people I always think are like the building inspectors, where they come in and they're able to look at a whole room and very quickly identify, oh my gosh, there's something wrong over here, this outlet isn't at the right height or it's not over far enough. They're able to pick out a really minute detail in a very big vast image or a big vast object. Again, using microscopes, people who work in labs have a good form perception aptitude. Another aptitude is spatial. Spatial aptitudes, these are individuals that a lot of times become engineers. They're able to assemble massive structures like the new Viking Stadium. They're able to look at a 3-dimensional drawing and actually construct that in real life. Another aptitude is called clerical perception. Clerical perception is the ability to perceive details in verbal or tabulated material. So this is slightly different than form perception. Form perception, you're perceiving details or something that's unique in an object. This is actually in text form or written form. These individuals that are a lot of times auditors are looking for a minute detail, or maybe a coder, this person who is doing some coding. One small detail, they have a really strong clerical perception. Another example of an aptitude is finger dexterity. These are the individuals that have the ability to move fingers and manipulate small objects very quickly. The Minnesota Orchestra is just starting up its next, this year's season of performances. All the individuals in the Minnesota Orchestra have a very strong finger dexterity. It doesn't mean that they have great hand-eye coordination necessarily, but they have really good finger dexterity. Motor coordination, on the other hand, is hand-eye coordination, where you can make precise movements with speed. Athletes are always the first individuals that have a really high motor coordination. Manual dexterity, these individuals are able to use their hands, individuals that excel in video games, individuals that in today's day and age with a greater level of robotics involved in medical procedures have a high level of manual dexterity. So this is another example of an aptitude that you might see out there in public. Now, as we just wrapped up our 8th aptitude, here's another definition for you. A skill. A skill is your ability to do something. So a lot of times people get a skill and an aptitude mixed up, and this actually ties back to one of our learning targets. The skill is actually once you're able to do it. An aptitude is your potential. I may have a potential or an aptitude of motor coordination. And as a result, I may have an aptitude that will allow me to learn to juggle quite easily. However, I do not have the skill unless I learn to juggle. So if I decide to take the time, I may be able to learn to juggle quite quickly because of my aptitude. But once I know how to juggle, it is no longer an aptitude, but instead a skill. So if I ask you, or if you see somebody who is a snowboarder and can snowboard, that's a skill. Okay, their aptitude of motor coordination may have allowed them to learn the skill more easily and more quickly, but the skill itself is actually your ability to perform it. So it's that aptitude that you have actually learned. So thanks for listening, and we will see you guys in the next class period.